This is freestyle, this is long range, this is racing, and this is cinematic. But which one is the best niche for you to start your FPV journey in? I started within the cinematic niche, meaning my motives were based solely around getting some dope video shots and nothing more. Although this did work for me eventually and got me where I am today within the space, I don't actually think it's the best place to start and wouldn't recommend it for a beginner. To get you going, let's run you through each of the main niches within FPV drones, what the benefits and drawbacks of them all are, and then which one I think is best for you. To kick us off, let's start with cinematic flying. Now, cinematic flying is exactly what it sounds like. You fly with the intent of filming some really cool video footage like capturing the scenery or chasing a drift car around a track. Generally, there isn't too much flipping around and performing difficult maneuvers, however, throttle control is really important to keep your drone low and close to the ground. It's actually a lot easier than you might think to get those swooping cinematic shots or even a smooth dive off a cliff. Furthermore, it's quite a limitless skill to learn, as you can start off getting the easy shots and then move on to the tighter, closer, and riskier shots later down the track. Another benefit of flying with the intent of filming is that as soon as you get home, run your footage through a stabilization software, you then get to watch back over it and get all giddy and excited. I can't even remember the amount of times I used to do this where I'd shoot a bunch of shots and then just be absolutely amped to see them on the computer screen as soon as the shoot was over. Honestly, it gets even more exciting when you can start showing your family and friends the footage and then furthermore post it to your socials as well. It does have its drawbacks, however, with the biggest one nearly causing me to leave the hobby altogether. That big drawback is lack of community and flying with others. More often than not, you go out to film on an early sunrise or out on the mountains away from civilization. The solo experience can be a soothing time, but mentally I found that it took its toll on me and eventually nearly made me put down the controller indefinitely. The other main drawback for me is the cost of adding the GoPro to your quad. It's not a necessity that you need a GoPro specifically, but for me, it's the best looking footage and it's really the only way that I'd want to go before heading into the cine lifters with professional cameras. A one-off cost would be doable, however, unfortunately when I was getting started, I went through 4 GoPros by crashing my drones. I still crash by the way, but that's all part of the fun. The second niche, which is a similar vibe to cinematic flying, is long range. It's here that you get to fly through vast landscapes and fill in those explorer needs. This is the sort of flying that some will class as the same as cinematic, but I really believe the feeling of gliding down a mountain or even just getting up close and personal with the top of a waterfall is really just something so unique to this niche. A massive positive for these drones is if you fly something like a 3-inch Explorer and run lithium-ion batteries, your flight time is ridiculously long. I'm talking sometimes sitting around 20 to 25 minutes. That means more time for you behind the goggles and less money shelling out on 10 extra battery packs. Unfortunately, with all this in mind, long-range flying is actually severely illegal in some countries due to their line of sight laws. That means for a lot of people, it's not actually a possibility to take part in this niche aspect of the hobby. It also means the community surrounding it is either non-existent or people keep it on the down low for obvious reasons. It's always a good idea to make sure you're operating within your country's drone laws, so giving long range a miss might be the best for some people here. Alright, up next is racing. This is a completely different vibe from anything cinematic or slow. In fact, it's quite literally the exact opposite. Racing is either against yourself or other people, consists of flying through gates and around flags, and doing those tight turns as fast as you possibly can. This is seriously one of the most fun and sustainable niches within FPV, as you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people. That generally means from the get-go of meeting someone new, you always have something in common to talk about and can actually become friends really quickly. It's also a really competitive way of flying, whether you're just trying to do your best to beat your own time or whether you're actually racing against other pilots on the same track. Not only is flying in such a different way as a new skill to learn, but so is learning the ins and outs of building and fixing your quad as you crash and break things. It can be quite the challenge sometimes, but thankfully again, the community is seriously always there to help you out, even if it's just a simple mistake. There is literally little to no judgment and everyone is always excited to help you learn. Everything does of course have its cons, although I'd say these are able to be countered with how positive the community side of things is. Obviously, you're going fast and you're flying close to things, so your risk of hitting stuff at high speeds is very high, and you're more than likely going to break your quad. That means it can suck up your time, money, and especially your patience when things don't go to plan or they don't work like you think they should, so be aware if you have a low patience threshold like me. Talking about the building side of things, it can be a bit limiting building a race-specific quad, as for a lot of races you aren't able to use a DJI video system. I'm sure that there are many reasons behind it, but I know for the fact that the biggest one is the interference that it causes for every other system out there. I personally experience it when flying with my friends, and even that's still with all of the precautions possible taken. Now, the final drawback for racing, which is funnily enough one of the reasons I never wanted to start, is the steep learning curve in all aspects. Both the building of the quad and the flying process can and will take a while to get your head around, and you'll need to learn a lot, but I personally think at the end of the day, the satisfaction of knowing you've built something that flies is pretty damn awesome. The final main style of flying that we're covering today is called freestyle. This is the type of flying that I'd class as more just for fun, but don't get me wrong here, there is still a lot to learn within it and a lot of skill required to be good. If cruising after work and going for a fun flight sounds more like you, then freestyle is probably a really good route to try out. You get the fast experience of flying close to things, but also the smooth feeling of performing tricks, dives, and flips. It's still a viable option to film and then share with too, as once you get smooth and hitting close call gaps, it can be really epic footage that is actually worth showing to others. Thankfully, freestyle has been around for quite a while too, and alongside racing is what I'd say the most common niche. That means you get the benefit of having other pilots around you who you can most likely meet up with and fly together with. If you aren't able to find anyone else though, it can have the exact same effect as cinematic flying had for me getting started, where the loneliness takes its toll. Similar to racing here, once you start to push your limits, you're most likely going to start breaking parts as well, which means there is the same learning barrier and money aspect to this too. This is still a solid option to start out with and is actually the way that a lot of pilots fly, as there is plenty to learn. It offers the same skill sets as racing and can still have a community based around it. So now that you know what each of the main niches are within FPV, you're completely free to decide where you think you should start out. But if I can give you my biggest piece of advice, it's to start where the community is. For the majority of people, that's going to mean starting out with racing. It's, in my opinion, the best way to see yourself progress. It's the easiest place to ask every question you ever have, and it's really a whole different flying experience with other people, even if they're miles better. Trust me, I would know. The other alternative here is if you find that you know of a few freestyle or cinematic pilots in your area, I'm going to seriously recommend that you try to connect with them and go out to fly with them. Sometimes it can be hard to find others, and that's exactly what I struggled with just over a year ago. However, the moment I tried the racing scene is the moment everything changed for me. If you want to learn more, you can watch the next video here. Otherwise, peace out.